The sun is sliding down the sky, and the day in Pompeii begins to soften. You can almost feel the change, the warm air cooling, the stone streets giving back the day's heat. Shadows stretch longer across the walls. Laundry sways gently between windows, and someone, somewhere, is still hammering a lid onto a jar, trying to finish just one last task before supper. The city's smaller than you might imagine, busy, but not crowded now. People have already done their errands, argued over prices, complained about the weather, and carried their baskets home. Now, Pompeii exhales. You can hear it, that little sigh a town gives when it's tired but content. If you stand in the main street, you'd smell bread baking and olive oil warming. Somewhere, a donkey snorts, deciding it's worked enough for one lifetime. Let's walk slowly, shall we? No rush. The stones underfoot are smooth from years of use, like polished river pebbles. Little bits of straw and dust lie in the cracks, catching the last rays of the sun. Every doorway glows softly, light spilling out like gold through the gaps in wooden shutters. You might hear laughter from one home, singing from another. There's a rhythm to it all, the evening rhythm. And there, on the corner of the street, stands Marcus, a merchant, not famous, not powerful, just steady. His tunic is plain, his hands smell faintly of oil and grain, and there's a small streak of dust across his cheek that he hasn't noticed yet. He's been standing outside a shop for a few minutes, pretending to tidy the jars, but really, he's just watching the street as the day dies gently away. He likes this hour, the part where everything slows down, but isn't yet asleep. Behind him, his shop is narrow but full. On one side, amphorae of olive oil, each sealed with wax. On the other, small sacks of grain, stacked in uneven piles. There's a wooden counter, rubbed smooth by years of elbows and coins. Nothing fancy, but it keeps the family comfortable. Marcus has already counted the coins twice, just to be sure, and tucked them into a small pouch. He'll bring it home and hand it to Julia, his wife, because she's the real accountant of the household. He pretends to be in charge, of course, but between us, he knows better. Now, as he looks toward the western sky, he can see the light touching the mountains. Mount Vesuvius looms in the distance, quiet and calm, its slopes soft and blue in the fading light. No one in the city feels nervous about it. It's just there, a familiar shape on the horizon, like a sleeping giant they've all learned to ignore. Tonight, the smoke rising from its top looks harmless, like the steam from a kitchen pot. Nothing more. A small breeze picks up, carrying the scent of the sea. Pompeii sits close enough to the Bay of Naples that you can smell the salt in the air. It mixes with the aroma of baking bread, and something slightly less pleasant, the gutters that could use a good cleaning. Still, there's something alive in the smell, something real and human. This is what evening smells like in a Roman town, half beauty, half chaos. Marcus stretches his back, groaning softly, then laughs at himself. He mutters something about getting old, though he's not much past 40. A boy passes by with a basket of fruit, whistling tunelessly. An old woman stops to chat. She wants to know the price of olive oil, though she's asked him the same question 3 times this week and never actually buys any. He humors her anyway. It's evening. What's the hurry? The street grows quieter. The chatter of the marketplace fades into a low hum, like a lullaby sung by the city itself. Shops close one by one, wooden shutters creak. The faint clang of metal echoes down the alley as someone locks a door. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then decides it's not worth the effort and lies back down. Marcus wipes his hands on his tunic and looks up. The sky is turning that particular kind of Roman blue, deep, velvet, with streaks of orange that seem to melt into the hills. It's the hour for walking home. His home isn't far, maybe 5 minutes away. A small house, but it's his. And right now, if you could peek through its doorway, you'd see Julia lighting the lamps and two children trying to sneak figs before dinner. She'll pretend not to notice, at least for a while. That's her version of mercy. As Marcus begins to walk, he pats the door twice. A habit, maybe, a little superstition. Something his father did and his grandfather before him. 2 pats for luck, 1 deep breath, then home. The sound of his sandals against the stone has its own rhythm, steady, familiar, almost like a heartbeat. He passes the bakery on the corner. The oven still glows inside. The baker's apprentice leans in the doorway, wiping flour from his arms. They nod at each other. No words, just that small, silent greeting that says, "We made it through another day." Sometimes that's enough. The light dims further. A few torches flicker on the street corners, the flame moving gently in the breeze. The walls glow with that soft, uneven light that makes every surface look like a painting. If you listen closely, you can hear a mother calling a child's name in the distance, a door closing, a faint tune from a flute somewhere far away. All small sounds, woven together into one quiet fabric. Pompeii, for all its dust and noise, becomes almost peaceful at this hour. It's a kind of peace built from routine, everyone knowing what comes next, no surprises. The day folds neatly into the night, like linen laid in a chest. Nothing grand happens, and that's the beauty of it. The quiet things, the closing of a door, the lighting of a lamp, the sound of sandals on stone, these are what make life feel steady. Marcus reaches the end of the street and pauses. From here, he can see the first stars coming out. He looks at them for a moment, thinking how they look the same every night. How they must look the same from other cities, too, from Rome, from Athens, even from far-off lands he's never seen. He likes that thought. The world feels large, but also somehow connected. A merchant's mind never quite stops wandering, even at sunset. He adjusts the strap of his coin pouch, smiles to himself, and heads home. Behind him, the shop stands silent, the jars gleaming faintly in the lamplight. Before him, the evening waits. Supper, laughter, the soft sound of water dripping in the courtyard. The city hums low and steady. Vesuvius sleeps. And the first true night of our story begins. The day is nearly done. The street outside the little shop grows quieter by the minute. Only a few voices float through the evening air now. A woman calling to a neighbor, the thud of a door closing somewhere, a few late footsteps echoing between walls. For Marcus, it's time to close up. He says it every evening, just one more customer, and somehow that one turns into 3. But tonight, he means it. Probably. Inside the shop, the light has turned golden. One oil lamp hangs from a hook on the wall, its small flame swaying as he moves around. The air smells faintly of olive oil, grain dust, and a touch of wine, all the scents of his trade mixing together. He spent the day selling, counting, talking, listening, and pretending he didn't notice when people tried to haggle him down too far. It's all part of the rhythm. The art of the merchant isn't in shouting or bragging, it's in patience, and sometimes in pretending you didn't see someone slip an extra fig into their basket. Marcus moves slowly now, like a craftsman finishing his work. He checks the amphora stacked by the wall, clay jars full of oil sealed with wax. He runs his hand along their tops, feeling for cracks or leaks. The clay is cool under his palm. Each jar has a story. The vineyard it came from, the trader who shipped it, the friend who lent him a cart when the delivery got delayed. It's not just goods, it's a web of lives connected through work and chance. He steps back, squints at the shells. Grain sacks, herbs tied in bundles, a few pieces of pottery he sells on the side. Nothing is fancy, but everything is useful. And in a city like Pompeii,
Usefulness matters more than show. He straightens a jar that's leaning a bit, taps it once, then dusts off the counter. If you've ever seen a shopkeeper tidy up at the end of the day, you know this routine. Half habit, half meditation. A small voice pipes up from the street. "Marcus, are you still open?" It's old Tullius, the neighbor from 2 doors down, a retired fisherman who doesn't fish anymore, but still smells faintly of the sea. Marcus sighs softly, smiles, and gestures him in. "Only if you promise not to talk about politics," he says. Tullius laughs, and, of course, immediately starts talking about politics. Something about new taxes, or maybe the city council being slow with repairs again. Marcus listens with half an ear, pouring a small measure of oil into a flask. He knows the routine. Let the man talk. By the time the story's over, the oil's sold, and everyone leaves happy. When Tullius finally goes, the sky outside has deepened to a dusky blue. Marcus walks to the doorway and looks out. The street lamps, little bronze holders filled with oil, flicker against the walls. A few people hurry home, sandals slapping softly on the stones. A child runs by, laughing, chased by a dog that clearly takes the game more seriously than the child does. The air is cooler now, and a thin line of smoke from cooking fires hangs above the rooftops. It smells like roasted barley and onions. Not a bad smell if you're hungry. Marcus's stomach reminds him that he is. Back inside, he takes a small wax tablet from under the counter, his ledger. He runs a stylus over the lines, checking the marks he's made through the day. Oil, bread, wine, lentils, 2 jars of honey sold to the baker's wife. He pauses for a moment and scratches his chin. He's fairly sure she still owes him for 1 jar from last week, but she bakes him fresh rolls every Thursday, and somehow that feels like payment enough. That's how small towns work. Favors, trust, and the occasional loaf of bread instead of coin. He leans back against the counter, the wood pressing into his palms. For a moment, he lets himself stop. Just breathe. He listens to the soft crackle of the lamp, to the faint chirping of crickets outside, to the quiet hum of a street drifting toward sleep. He smiles a little. It's not a rich man's life, but it's steady. And steady is a kind of wealth. From a small shelf behind the counter, he takes a bowl of leftover olives, wrinkled and salty, and eats a few. Not the freshest, but good enough. He pours himself a bit of watered wine from a jug and takes a sip. There's a comfort in this simple end-of-day ritual, the taste, the quiet, the stillness of a shop that's done its work. Even the creak of the door feels friendly now, a companion, not a noise. Outside, a few more doors close. The sounds of the marketplace fade entirely, replaced by softer ones. Murmurs from nearby houses, the distant splash of water in a fountain, the rhythmic clop of a horse's hoof somewhere down the road. The town has shifted into its night rhythm. You can almost feel it, slower, gentler, as if the entire city has taken a deep breath and is finally exhaling. Marcus reaches for the wooden shutter and pulls it halfway down. He pauses, looks once more at the shelves, at everything lined up and quiet. Tomorrow, he'll do it all again. Open early, talk, sell, sweep, count, smile, and one day he'll teach his son the same. But that's a thought for another evening. Tonight, it's enough to just be done. He closes the shutter completely and secures it with a simple bar of wood. The sound it makes, that dull, final thud, is deeply satisfying. He picks up his pouch of coins and tucks it under his belt. The pouch is small, not heavy, but the weight of it feels right, proof that the day mattered. Before leaving, he lights a small stick of incense and places it on the shelf near the wall, a little offering to Mercury, god of trade and travelers. Just a habit, passed down through generations. The smoke curls upward, silver and soft, and fills the air with a faint sweetness. Marcus nods toward it, not a prayer exactly, just respect. "Thanks for keeping the scales balanced," he murmurs. Then he smiles. Well, mostly balanced. He steps outside, pulling the door shut behind him. The street feels cooler now, the stones cold against his sandals. He stands for a moment, looking back at the shop, his small corner of the world. The lamp flickers once inside, then goes out. Darkness settles in, but it's a friendly kind of dark. The kind that belongs to resting places, not to fear. Marcus stretches his shoulders, lets out a long sigh, and starts walking toward home. Behind him, the quiet shop waits patiently for morning. Ahead of him, warm lamplight glows from windows and doorways. He hums softly as he walks, an old tune he doesn't quite remember the words to. It doesn't matter. The melody is enough. The day is done. Pompeii's streets at dusk are something special. They're never completely quiet, not even now, with the sun long past the rooftops, but the noise softens, turns from daytime chatter to a kind of evening murmur. It's a softer city voice, slower, more thoughtful, like someone half talking in their sleep. Marcus walks home along the narrow stones, his sandals clicking lightly on the uneven street. The air feels cooler here, carrying the faint scent of cooking fires, olive oil, and wet stone. Every few steps he has to shift slightly, avoiding a deep rut where cartwheels have worn down the street over years of passing trade. If you've ever walked a cobbled path after a long day, you know that rhythm, that slow sway between watching your footing and letting your mind wander. He nods to a woman closing her shutters. She gives him a polite smile and calls out something about the weather. People in Pompeii always talk about the weather, though it hardly changes much. Warm, sunny, sometimes too sunny. He waves and keeps walking, careful not to bump into a stray cat that's decided the middle of the road is its rightful throne. The cat doesn't move, of course. It just looks at him with that lazy confidence cats have since the dawn of time. Marcus steps around it.
Some battles aren't worth fighting. From a nearby doorway, a soft sound drifts out. A lute being tuned. Someone's preparing for a bit of music before dinner. The notes are uneven at first, then settle into a calm rhythm. A child's laughter joins in from somewhere up ahead, followed by the patter of little feet. It's a good sound, Marcus thinks. The sound of life winding down, not fading away. As he turns a corner, the light shifts again. The last of the sun catches the top of a wall, turning it gold before slipping away completely. Now the lamps start to matter, small flames flickering from doorways and street corners. They cast long, soft shadows across the ground. The city looks different at this hour, gentler somehow. The edges blur, the colors deepen, and even the rough walls look warmer. It's a time for thinking, or for not thinking at all. Marcus passes the baker's shop. The doors half open, and a wave of warm air rolls out, thick with the smell of bread just pulled from the oven. The baker himself, a broad man with flour permanently clinging to his beard, stands at the counter wiping his hands. "Evening, Marcus," he calls. "Evening," Marcus answers. "Still working?" The baker grins. "Always." Marcus chuckles softly. "You and your bread, me and my oil. The gods made us both stubborn." The baker shrugs. It keeps the stomach full. They share a laugh, the small kind of joke that doesn't need to be funny to be good. Then Marcus walks on, carrying a bit of that warmth with him. Further along, two boys are playing with small wooden dice in the dust near a fountain. Their tunics are a mess, their knees scraped, but their eyes are bright with concentration. One of them rolls and cheers, a clear victory.
The other groans, brushes the dirt from his hands, and immediately demands a rematch. Marcus smiles as he passes. He remembers being their age, when victory meant everything, and losing meant the world was ending. He almost tells them that life's full of rematches, but he keeps it to himself. No one likes advice when they're busy being 10. At the fountain, he pauses to dip his fingers in the cool water. The stone rim is smooth from countless hands doing the same. Water trickles gently from a carved lion's mouth, the sound soft and constant. It's one of those small, perfect sounds, steady enough to calm the mind, quiet enough not to disturb a thought. He stays there for a moment, just listening. In the distance, someone's singing. Not a grand voice, just a man walking home, humming to himself. The tune drifts through the air like smoke. Above the rooftops, the first stars begin to appear. They shimmer faintly through a thin haze of wood smoke. Marcus looks up, spotting the familiar constellations, the hunter, the twins, the dolphin. His father used to tell him stories about those stars. Every light in the sky was someone's memory, someone's story. He smiles softly at that thought. If that's true, the sky must be very full tonight. The farther he walks from the market, the more peaceful it gets. The houses here are closer together, their walls painted with fading reds and yellows. Every doorway has its own little lamp, burning quietly. It gives the feeling that the whole street is breathing together, one soft, glowing pulse. He passes a group of women sitting outside, mending clothes and chatting in low voices. They nod to him as he walks by, still talking about something, maybe the price of fish, or maybe gossip about a neighbor's son. It doesn't matter. The words blur into a comfortable hum. A few streets over, a donkey brays loudly, breaking the calm. Someone calls out in irritation. Then there's laughter. That kind of tired laughter people share at the end of a long day. The sound carries far in the night air, bouncing softly between the walls. Marcus shakes his head with a grin. Pompeii never sleeps, he murmurs to himself. Just naps. He stops at a small shrine built into the corner of a house, a painted niche with a little figure of a household god, the Laurus. Someone's left a few flower petals and a bit of bread there, offerings to protect the street and the houses nearby. He adds a tiny piece of olive from his pouch, pressing it gently onto the ledge. It's not much, but it feels right. A small thank you for safe roads and steady days. The lamp beside the shrine flickers as if acknowledging the gesture. Marcus nods once and moves on. The sky now is deep blue, almost black. You can see the outline of Mount Vesuvius in the distance, a dark shape against the stars, quiet and harmless looking. No one pays it much attention. It's just part of the landscape, always there. Like the sea, or the hills, or the cats. Constant, familiar. The kind of thing you stop noticing when you see it every day. Finally, Marcus turns onto his own street, a quieter lane, with fewer shops, mostly homes. The cobblestones here are smoother, worn by the same feet for generations. The air smells faintly of garlic and herbs. He can recognize the sound of someone grinding spices with a mortar and pestle inside one of the houses. He recognizes the sound. His neighbor Livia, always preparing something delicious. He makes a mental note to compliment her cooking tomorrow, which might earn him a spare pastry if he's lucky. As he nears his doorway, he glances back down the street. The lamps flicker in a line, their light spilling gently across the stones. The whole city seems to exhale, relaxing into night. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then settles down again. A door creaks, closes softly. The day is gone. Marcus lifts the latch and steps inside. Behind him, the streets keep their quiet rhythm, a lullaby of footsteps, whispers, and fading music. Pompeii, the restless city, finally slows down to a peaceful hum. And for one small merchant walking home, the evening feels just right. Simple, steady, alive. When Marcus steps into the house, the first thing he notices is the light. It's soft, that mellow glow only oil lamps can give, golden and uneven, flickering gently against the plaster walls. And then comes the smell. Warm bread, herbs, a bit of fish sizzling in olive oil. The kind of smell that makes you sigh without meaning to. After a long day in the shop, this is what home smells like. "Close the door, will you?" calls Julia from the kitchen, her voice half hidden under the sound of clinking pottery. Marcus obeys, slipping the latch into place. He stands for a moment in the entryway, letting the cool air of the street mix with the cozy warmth of the house. The transition feels like sinking into a bath, the kind that takes the edge off tired bones. Julia appears in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. She's already half smiling, half frowning, the usual balance for someone managing both a household and a husband. "You're late," she says. "I had customers." "You always have customers. And you always complain about it." She shakes her head, but there's amusement in her eyes. He leans down and kisses her cheek, and she pretends to be annoyed, although she doesn't move away. Marriage, Roman style. The kitchen isn't large, but it's busy in that pleasant lived-in way. Clay pots line the shelf above the small hearth. A bronze pan rests over the coals, gently hissing.
A loaf of bread cools on the table beside a bowl of lentils, a dish of olives, and some sliced figs. Nothing fancy, just the sort of meal a merchant's family might share on an ordinary night. Comfort over spectacle, simplicity over show. Julia's sister Marcia sits near the hearth, sorting herbs. She glances up as Marcus enters. "You brought the oil?" "Of course," Marcus says, patting the pouch at his belt. "You act like I'd forget the one thing that pays for everything in this room." Marcia raises an eyebrow. "You did last week." He chuckles. "That was a test, to make sure you were paying attention." She says, not believing him for a second. At the far end of the room, their daughter Livia, 10 years old, quick and curious, is trying to teach the family dog a trick. The dog, a round, sleepy thing named Panza, is not interested in tricks. He's interested in the bit of bread in Livia's hand. "Sit," she says sternly. Panza looks up, blinks, and wags his tail. "That's not sitting." Marcus laughs softly. "Give him time. He's a philosopher, not an athlete." Livia huffs, but can't help smiling. The dog eventually sits, mostly by accident, and she cheers as if he performed a miracle. Julia moves the pan from the fire and sets it on a trivet. The scent of garlic and herbs fills the air, earthy and rich. She sprinkles a few crushed peppercorns over the fish and turns toward Marcus. "Will you pour the wine?" "Gladly." He takes a clay jug from the shelf, tilts it carefully over a mixing bowl, and adds a bit of water from a pitcher. Roman wine isn't meant to be strong. It's for talking, not for forgetting. As he stirs it with a wooden spoon, he hums quietly, that same tune he'd been humming on the walk home. It fits the rhythm of the evening perfectly. Slow, content, unhurried. The household slave, a young boy named Diodorus, moves silently between tasks, fetching plates, arranging cups, stirring the lentils. Marcus thanks him each time, which still seems to surprise the boy. Not every master bothers with that. Julia notices too and gives Marcus a small approving look. Kindness, she believes, keeps a house warmer than any fire. From outside, a faint chorus of voices drifts in. Neighbors chatting across the walls, someone laughing, the muffled clink of dishes being washed. The whole street seems to share a rhythm tonight. It's as if every household has reached the same part of the day at once. Work done, food ready, lamps glowing. You can almost feel the whole city exhale together. Julia places a few plates on the table. Plain but well-made pottery, glazed in soft brown tones. Livia scurries over with the bread, setting it carefully in the middle. Marcia brings the olives and figs. Diodorus adds a small dish of cheese,
proudly balancing it with both hands. The table fills slowly, not in abundance, but in comfort. Marcus watches it all and smiles. He's seen grand feasts before, banquets with silver cups and overflowing platters, but this little table feels richer than any of them. There's something about honest food, shared quietly, that money can't buy. Julia sits, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Did you hear?" she says, as Marcus takes his seat. "The neighbor's son got a job at the baths." "Ah," Marcus says, tearing a piece of bread. "Good work, that. Warm in winter." "Hot in summer," Marcia adds. "They say he'll be working the furnace. Then he'll be warm forever," Marcus jokes. Livia giggles, even though she doesn't quite understand. The talk drifts easily from there. Small things, familiar names, nothing urgent, just the music of family conversation. The kind that flows around you like water, gentle and low. Marcus eats slowly, savoring every bite. The lentils are soft, the bread crisp at the edges, the fish tender and fragrant. He soaks up a bit of sauce with his bread and leans back. "Perfect," he says. Julia gives a little shrug. "It's the same as yesterday." "Then yesterday was perfect, too." She smiles, shaking her head. Livia looks up. "Can we have honey cakes tomorrow?" "If you behave." "I'll behave right now." "Ha ha," Marcus laughs. "That's not how it works." "But it should be," Livia says, as serious as a philosopher. Her Aunt Marcia nearly spits her wine out, laughing. As they eat, the lamps flicker softly, throwing little waves of light across the walls. You can see the painted frescoes catching the glow, scenes of gardens and birds, faded but still lovely. Someone spent hours painting those vines and flowers, trying to bring a piece of nature inside these walls. Now, under the lamplight, they almost seem to sway gently, as if stirred by a silent breeze. When the plates begin to empty, Julia rises to bring a small bowl of fruit, late summer figs, still soft and sweet. The family eats them quietly, the conversation slowing to comfortable silence. The only sounds are the crackle of the coals, the faint buzzing of a night insect somewhere, and the soft rustle of cloth as someone shifts in their seat. Marcus looks around the table, at Julia, Marcia, Livia, even Diodorus standing shyly by the wall, and feels a small wave of contentment. He doesn't say anything about it. He just lets it sit there, like the warm glow of the lamps. Outside, the last light fades from the sky. Inside, the house feels wrapped in a soft cocoon of warmth and food and quiet laughter. Tomorrow will bring another day of trade and talk and tired feet. But tonight, there's only peace and the gentle sound of supper being finished in a Roman home. After supper, the house settles into that pleasant hush that comes only when everyone's full and content. The air still smells faintly of herbs and warm bread. Somewhere, a coal pops softly in the hearth, sending up a thin wisp of smoke that curls into the lamplight and disappears. Julia moves quietly around the room, her footsteps light, her sleeves rolled up. She begins the nightly ritual, the small, steady business of lighting the lamps. Roman lamps aren't like modern ones. No glass shades, no clicks or switches, just small clay bowls filled with oil, with a thin linen wick reaching over the edge. Simple, but lovely in their way. Julia takes one from a shelf and sets it on the table. Its surface is smooth from years of use, the clay darkened with tiny fingerprints, the quiet marks of many evenings just like this. She dips her fingers in the jar of olive oil, pours a little into the lamp, then lights the wick with a glowing splint from the fire. The flame flutters, uncertain for a moment, then steadies. The glow spreads slowly, like honey over bread, soft, golden, and patient. In this light, everything looks gentler. The walls, the faces, even the tired lines at the corners of Marcus's eyes. Livia watches the process with fascination. "Can I light one?" she asks. Julia hesitates. "Only if you promise not to set your hair on fire." "I promise." She says it with such confidence that everyone laughs, which doesn't exactly inspire trust. But Julia hands her a small lamp anyway, keeping a close eye as the girl carefully pours in the oil. Her tongue sticks out slightly in concentration. Marcus pretends not to watch, but can't help smiling.
When the little flame finally catches, Livia's eyes widen. "It's alive," she whispers. "Almost," Marcus says softly. "Treat it kindly, and it'll behave." They place the lamps one by one around the room, on the shelf by the doorway, on the table, near the painted wall. Each one adds its own small circle of light until the whole room glows like a quiet constellation. No harsh brightness, no shadows to chase away, just a soft, even warmth that makes everything feel close and safe. In the corner, Marcia adjusts the wick on one lamp. "If you let them burn too low, they'll smoke," she murmurs. "I learned that the hard way." Marcus chuckles. "Was that the night we had more smoke than supper?" Marcia rolls her eyes. "You try cooking with cheap oil." Julia snorts softly, shaking her head. "That's why I do the shopping now." The dog, Pansa, has already claimed his spot near the hearth, curling up with a heavy sigh that seems to say, "Finally." His fur catches the lamplight in little patches of gold. Livia sits beside him, tracing lazy circles in the dust with her finger, humming to herself. She's half awake, half dreaming already. The lamps seem to slow the whole world down. Even time feels like it's walking softer now. Marcus stretches his legs and takes another sip of watered wine. He watches the flame nearest him flicker gently, its reflection dancing in the rim of his cup. He's always liked this hour, the time between day and night, when the world seems to loosen its grip on all the noise and hurry. In his shop, lamps mean customers and work, but here they mean peace. He leans back and lets out a quiet sigh that sounds suspiciously like a purr. Outside, the city has changed, too. If you listen closely, you can hear the difference. The daytime clamor, the calls of vendors, the rattle of carts is gone. Now there's only the murmur of low voices, the occasional bark of a dog, the far-off ring of a bell from a temple. The air smells of smoke and sea salt, a cool breeze slipping through open shutters. Somewhere nearby, someone's playing a flute. The notes drift lazily through the streets, slow and soft, like a lullaby for the whole town. Julia moves to the small household shrine, the Narration. It's built into the wall, painted with tiny figures of the household gods, the lares. In front of it stands a shallow dish, already holding a few flower petals from the morning. She lights a lamp there, bows her head for a moment, and murmurs a short prayer. Nothing formal, just gratitude. For the meal, for the home, for another ordinary day safely done. Marcus watches her quietly. He doesn't always pray out loud, but he always feels something in that moment, a calm that settles deeper than words. When she's done, Livia tiptoes over and adds her own offering, a crumb of bread and a tiny fig leaf she's been holding since dinner. She sets it down carefully, then looks up at her mother. "Will the gods like it?" Julia smiles. "They'll love it." "Even the leaf?" "Especially the leaf." Satisfied, Livia beams and skips back to her spot beside Pansa.
Marcia yawns. "It's getting late," she says. Julia nods. "We'll finish tidying, then bed." Marcus protests weakly. "I can help." Julia waves him off. "You've done enough trading for one day. Sit. Try not to spill your wine." He grins. "That's a challenge I accept." It's a small, familiar exchange, the kind of domestic comedy that repeats itself in homes everywhere, century after century. Different people, same story. As Julia and Marcia clear the dishes, the quiet deepens. Livia's hum fades into a sleepy silence. The flames from the lamps flicker slower now, as if the air itself is relaxing. Even the shadows seem gentle, stretching lazily across the walls. You can almost hear the rhythm of the house, the soft clink of pottery, the whisper of fabric, the occasional sigh. All the day's busy energy has drained away, leaving only stillness and warmth. Marcus glances at the doorway. Through the open shutter, he can see a slice of the night sky, dark and velvety, sprinkled with stars. He thinks about how many people in the city are doing this same thing right now, lighting lamps, washing up, telling quiet stories before bed. The thought comforts him. It makes the world feel smaller, kinder, connected. Julia returns, wiping her hands. "All done," she says softly. Marcus nods. "The lamps make everything look better, don't they?" She smiles. "That's why I keep you out of bright sunlight." He laughs quietly, the sound warm and low. Livia giggles from her half-asleep spot on the floor. Pansa lifts one ear, then decides it's not worth the effort and goes back to dreaming. The last of the lamps burns steady. The flames waver just enough to make the shadows dance, slow, gentle shapes moving across painted vines and birds on the wall. It's like the house itself is breathing, alive in its quiet way. Marcus finishes his wine, sets the cup down, and exhales. "Another good day," he murmurs. Julia nods. "Yes, ordinary. The best kind." He looks at her, the lamplight reflecting softly in her eyes. "Ordinary," he repeats, as if testing the word. Then he smiles. "I'll take it." Outside, the night deepens, wrapping Pompeii in a velvet hush. Inside, the lamps keep their steady watch, tiny suns glowing in clay, guarding dreams until morning. Outside the window, the air hums with the quiet of evening, that soft, half-awake hour when the light has gone, but the world hasn't fully decided to sleep yet. In the courtyard, the last of the daylight still clings to the walls in a faint golden hue, like it's reluctant to leave. And in that fading glow, the children have found their moment. Livia's voice drifts through the open doorway. "Wait for me," she calls, her sandals slapping lightly against the stone floor. Marcus looks up from his seat near the lamp, smiling. "She said she was tired a moment ago," he murmurs. Julia doesn't even glance up from folding a cloth. She'll remember that after she falls twice. In the courtyard, 3 neighborhood children are already waiting. Flaccus, the baker's son, little Petronia, who always carries a doll missing an arm, and Rufus, who insists he's the leader simply because he's the tallest. They're arranging small pebbles in a circle, setting up a game that's somewhere between marbles, counting, and chaos. No one really remembers the rules, but that's half the fun. The stones clack softly as they roll across the ground. Flaccus keeps score by moving a small stick back and forth, though what that actually measures is anyone's guess. Livia wins a round she doesn't understand, Petronia's dog gets declared a spectator, and Rufus argues passionately that the gods are on his side. It's the kind of argument only children can have, serious, dramatic, and entirely about nothing. Their laughter spills into the quiet street, echoing lightly off the walls. Inside, Marcus leans against the doorway, watching.
There's a stillness in him that only comes when he's seeing something familiar and fleeting. A small piece of life that feels like it's always been there. He doesn't call them in, not yet. He just listens. The laughter, the pebbles, the occasional triumphant "Ha!" from Rufus, all of it blending with the evening sounds of the city. The rhythm of a street at peace. Down the lane, someone's closing a shutter. A woman hums softly as she sweeps her doorstep. A pair of doves flutter from a rooftop, cooing as they settle for the night. It's the hour when everything slows. Even the air feels thicker, more tender somehow. The oil lamps glow like small stars in every doorway. If you stood at a distance, the whole town might look like a constellation resting on the earth. "Papa, come play!" Livia's voice pulls Marcus back. He raises an eyebrow. "I'm not sure I remember the rules." "That's all right," she says seriously. "Neither do we." Julia calls out from inside. "If he breaks another lamp, he's sleeping outside." Marcus grins. "Noted." He steps into the courtyard, crouches beside the circle of pebbles, and studies the setup as if it were a grand military strategy. Rufus immediately explains an overly complicated rule involving capturing stones and fortresses. Marcus nods thoughtfully. "Ah, I see," he says. He does not see, but the children beam, pleased that an adult is taking it seriously. The game begins. Marcus pretends to be a fierce competitor, narrowing his eyes, sighing dramatically when a stone goes astray, congratulating the victor with mock solemnity. The children laugh until they can barely speak. Even Petronia's doll seems to be smiling, although that's perhaps just the way her painted face cracked long ago. Eventually, Julia appears in the doorway, arms crossed, trying to look stern. "You're supposed to be settling down," she says. "We're almost done," Livia calls. Julia sighs, a familiar sigh, the one that means she's not truly annoyed. "5 more minutes," she says, disappearing back inside. Marcus winks. "You heard her. 5 minutes. That's at least 2 more rounds." The sky above them deepens to a soft indigo. A single bright star appears, shimmering faintly. Someone in a nearby courtyard begins strumming a lute, the tune slow and wistful. The children's voices grow quieter, their laughter softer. They play slower now, distracted by the calm that's settling around them. Even Rufus stops arguing about the rules. It's as if the night itself is gently pressing a finger to their lips. When the final round ends, no one really knows who won. They declare it a draw, though Lilia secretly believes she had the most stones. The others don't seem to mind. They gather their pebbles into a little pile and sit in a circle, whispering about nothing in particular. What the baker's cat did, who saw the funniest face at the market, which god might make the best pet. It's the language of children, half nonsense, half poetry. Marcus watches them a moment longer before clearing his throat softly. "All right, that's enough for tonight. The lamps are low and your mothers will be looking for you." Rufus groans. "We were just starting to win!" "You can keep winning tomorrow," he says with a smile. The boys gather their stones, Petronia hugs her one-armed doll, and they say their goodnights. The little group disappears down the lane, their sandals tapping lightly against the stones, their voices fading into the warm dark. Livia lingers by the doorway, still holding one smooth pebble in her hand. She turns it over a few times, feeling its weight, then looks up at her father. "Do you think the gods ever play games?" she asks. Marcus smiles. "If they don't, they must get very bored." She considers that, then nods seriously, satisfied with the answer.
Inside, the house glows softly. Julia has finished cleaning, the air faintly scented with olive oil and herbs. The lamps burn low, their flames small and steady. Ponce the dog lifts his head as Livia enters, then flops back down without interest. She sits beside him, resting her pebble on the floor near his paw, a small trophy from a long, important evening. Marcus closes the shutters gently, sealing out the night. He can still hear distant laughter from other houses, but it's fading, carried off by the cool breeze that slips through the alleyways. Pompeii is quieting again, layer by layer, from street to courtyard, from house to heart. He looks around at the room, the lamps, the soft shapes of his family moving in the half-light. A smile touches his lips. Peace, simple and complete. Livia yawns, her head drooping. Julia guides her toward bed with a hand on her shoulder. She says softly, "Tomorrow you can teach Ponce to sit again." Livia giggles sleepily. "He already knows how." Julia laughs. "Then maybe he can teach you to stay still." But Livia's already half asleep, her small feet shuffling toward her room. Marcus watches them go, his heart full and quiet. The courtyard is empty now, the pebbles scattered and forgotten until morning. The faint hum of crickets fills the air, steady and calm. Another day has slipped gently into memory. Outside the house, Pompeii exhales. The day's noise has settled, the shouts, the footsteps, the clatter of wagons, all faded now, leaving behind a low hum of life winding down. The sky above is the color of ink diluted with milk, a soft violet that deepens near the mountains. The first stars flicker like timid thoughts, not quite brave enough for full night. Somewhere in the distance, the sea murmurs faintly, a constant, gentle voice beneath all things. Marcus steps out into the narrow street, stretching his legs. The stone underfoot still holds a little warmth from the sun, though the air has cooled. It smells faintly of damp stone, olive smoke, and bread. Someone must be still baking the last loaves of the day. He pulls his cloak tighter around his shoulders. The fabric is rough but comforting, familiar like an old friend. A lamp burns outside the neighbor's doorway, its flame small but steady. Each house along the lane has one, little pockets of gold floating in the blue air. From a distance, they make the street look like a river of quiet light. The walls glow softly, the painted reds and yellows dulled by the dusk. You can almost imagine the city itself breathing in sleep. Two women walk by carrying baskets, probably heading home from the baths. They greet Marcus with a polite nod and a faint smile, the kind people give when words feel too heavy for the hour. Their sandals make soft slaps against the stones, fading quickly. From an upper window, someone's laughing, a low, tired laugh, probably at a story told for the 10th time that week. The sound lingers in the air like a thread of warmth. Marcus strolls toward the corner where his street meets the next. There's a small fountain there, a simple stone basin where water trickles endlessly from a carved lion's mouth. The stream catches the lamplight and glints like melted bronze. He rests his hands on the cool edge of the basin, listening to the steady rhythm of water falling into water. It's a quiet sound, but full of life. Even now, with most of the city at rest, the fountains never stop. Their patience is eternal. He glances up.
Across the street, an old man is sitting outside his doorway, sharpening a knife slowly on a whetstone. They nod to each other, neighbors who've shared the street for years, but rarely needed many words. Next door, a pair of boys chase each other with sticks, their mother scolding them half-heartedly from inside. Her tone says she's tired, but not enough to mean it. The boys laugh and dodge her reach, bare feet kicking up small clouds of dust. It's the last burst of energy before bed, the same in every age. Further down, the flicker of firelight glows behind the door of a tavern. A few men linger there, their voices low and friendly. Someone plucks out a lyre, the notes soft and slow, a tune meant more for swaying than dancing. The smell of spiced wine drifts through the air, warm and sweet. A small dog sits by the doorway, tail flicking lazily each time a crumb falls. The city's rhythm has changed. Earlier in the day, Pompeii is all noise and color, vendors shouting, wheels clattering, laughter echoing down the arcades. But now, everything feels slower. Even the sounds seem to stretch out, as if unwilling to disturb the peace that's fallen over the stones. The streets hold a kind of stillness that only comes when most feet have gone home. A cart rolls by, one of the last for the evening. Its wooden wheels creak softly as it passes, the mule's hooves ringing against the stones. The driver hums to himself, something wordless and content. When he turns the corner, his lamp sways in the dark, painting quick stripes of light on the walls before vanishing. Then the silence returns, deeper now. Marcus stands there for a while, breathing it all in. He knows these streets better than most. Every crack in the stones, every doorway, every friendly nod from people he's known since childhood. Yet, at night, it feels different, softer. The edges blur, the roughness fades. The city that bustles so loudly by day becomes tender by night. Tired, yes, but kind. A faint breeze stirs, carrying the scent of salt from the bay. Somewhere, a shutter creaks. A child laughs in their sleep. The sound makes Marcus smile. He remembers nights like this from when he was small, sitting on the doorstep with his father, listening to the distant sea. His father always said that the city never truly sleeps, it only rests between dreams. Marcus never quite understood it then, but standing here now, he thinks he does. He turns back toward home. From the open doorway, he can see the soft glow of their lamps, steady, golden, welcoming. Julia's voice drifts out, low and gentle, probably telling Livia to stop talking and actually lie down. He chuckles under his breath. It's a familiar routine, one that will replay itself tomorrow and the day after that. The comfort of repetition, the rhythm of home. As he walks, his sandals make a faint scrape against the stones. It's the only sound, apart from the distant drip of the fountain. Above, the sky has turned darker still, the last purple fading into blue-black. The stars are bolder now, scattered thickly over the horizon. One falls, quick and silent, vanishing before he can make a wish. He smiles anyway. Some things don't need wishes to be good. At the end of the street, a cat slinks across his path, a lean tabby, tail held high. It pauses to inspect him, eyes catching the lamplight, then slips away between two houses without a sound. For a moment, Marcus wonders where it goes, how many homes it visits, how many quiet kitchens it passes on nights like this. The thought amuses him. Pompeii may have its rules and routines, but even cats live like emperors here. When he reaches his doorway again, the sounds of home wrap around him like a blanket. The creak of a bed frame, the faint splash as Julia rinses a bowl, the soft snore of Panza, already deep in his dreams. He pauses just before stepping inside. He looks once more down the street, the lamps flickering, the sky wide and still. It's such an ordinary sight, but it fills him with something hard to name. Gratitude, maybe. Or just the quiet joy of being part of this small, living world. He closes the door gently behind him. The lamplight greets him like a sigh. The city outside continues its slow descent into sleep, fountains whispering, shutters closing, hearts softening into rest. Pompeii at peace. Inside the house, the night has deepened into its quiet rhythm. The air is still warm from the day, but the cool breeze slipping through the shutters softens it. The lamps burn low now, small circles of gold against the shadows. Most of the house is already half asleep, including the dog,
who has taken up his usual post in the corner and now snores like a polite thundercloud. Julia and Marcia move slowly, tidying the remains of the evening. It's not urgent work, just the quiet, ordinary chores that come after supper. A bit of sweeping, a few dishes to rinse, a cloth to hang by the hearth. They've done it so many times that it's almost a dance. One lifts, one wipes, one stacks. No need for words, though sometimes they talk anyway. Soft, unhurried sentences drifting between the sounds of small movements. Marcia hums as she scrubs a clay bowl. The tune is old, something her grandmother used to sing, a melody meant for passing time, not for an audience. Julia joins in for a verse before laughing quietly. "You always pick the ones that get stuck in my head." "That's how you know it's a good song," Marcia says, grinning. Her hands move with practiced ease, water glinting faintly in the lamplight as she rinses another bowl and sets it upside down to dry. From the back room, the faint sound of Livia's voice drifts out. Sleep-talking, most likely. Something about winning just one more game. Julia shakes her head fondly. That girl dreams in competitions. "She gets that from you," Marcia says. "Me?" Julia raises her eyebrow. "I haven't competed with anyone since I convinced your brother I could bake better bread." Marcia snorts. "You did bake better bread." "True," Julia says, "but it's been years and he still brings it up every Saturnalia." They both laugh softly, the kind of laughter that doesn't need to fill the room. It's enough that it lingers in the corners, like perfume. Outside, a cricket starts its lonely tune. It's not unpleasant, just a reminder that the world keeps breathing, even while the humans inside slow down. Julia sets aside the last of the dishes and wipes her hands on her apron. "Done," she says with satisfaction. Marcia, who is still sweeping, eyes the floor critically. "You missed a spot." Julia sighs. "If I keep going, the floor will be cleaner than the food we ate." "That's the goal," Marcia teases. Julia waves her off. "Go sit before I hand you another broom." Marcia leans the broom against the wall and stretches, back cracking slightly. "By the gods, I'm getting old." "You're 24, Julia says dryly. "I'm practically ancient." "Then I must be dust." "You're ageless," Marcia says with mock solemnity. Julia laughs. "You should have been a priestess with flattery like that." The lamp nearest the hearth flickers, its oil running low. Julia moves to trim the wick.
The smell of burning linen rises briefly, then fades into the scent of olive oil. She watches the flame steady again, smaller now, softer. "I like this time," she says after a moment. Marcia glances up. When everything's done, when the house feels full but quiet? Marcia nods, like it's exhaled. Julia smiles faintly. Exactly. In the corner, a small pile of laundry waits to be folded. Marcia picks up a tunic, folds it neatly, then pauses to smooth out the creases with the flat of her hand. The fabric is rough, well worn. You can tell which clothes belong to who without even looking. Marcus's are always heavier. Livia's always stained with evidence of adventure. Julia takes a smaller garment and holds it up, amused. "She used this tunic to carry figs from the garden again. Look at this." Marcia inspects it. "That's not a stain, that's a fig ghost." Julia chuckles. "Let's hope it doesn't haunt me tomorrow." They fold in silence for a while, the soft rustle of fabric blending with the low hiss of the lamps. It's an ordinary kind of music, the sound of a home taking care of itself. Each motion feels familiar, the sort of thing the body remembers even when the mind drifts elsewhere. Julia's thoughts wandered to tomorrow's market list. More olive oil, some lentils, maybe new thread, if the merchant still has that good dyed spool. Marcia's mind drifts too, to her brother's workshop, to the half-finished jar she's been painting, to the idea of sleep, sweet and near. When the folding's done, Julia checks the door latch. Old habit, she's checked it every night for years, though it never fails. Then she moves to the small shrine again, adding a drop of oil to the lamp before it fades.
She whispers a simple phrase, part prayer, part thank you, part good night. Not grand words, just the kind that feel right spoken in a quiet room. Marcia stands nearby, head bowed slightly, not speaking, but listening. The flame answers by steadying, a thin line of gold that glows like contentment itself. When it's done, Julia sighs softly. "That's that," she murmurs. She leans against the table for a moment, rubbing her hands together. The air feels cooler now. The house hushed. Even the dog's snores have slowed. Somewhere beyond the walls, the faint echo of the sea can be heard again, a whisper more than a sound. Marcia collects the last of the tools, the broom, the cloth, the small pot of ashes, and sets them by the door for morning. Then she glances around, satisfied. "Looks good," she says. Julia nods. "It'll only stay this way until breakfast." "That's the charm of it. If it stayed clean, we'd have nothing to do." Julia smiles. "Careful, or I'll make you prove that tomorrow." They both laugh softly again. The laughter fades into stillness, leaving only the gentle tick of cooling clay and the faint flutter of a moth near the lamp. Julia watches the moth for a while, its wings catching the light with every slow flap. Poor thing, always chasing the fire. Marcia watches too. Maybe it just likes the warmth? "Don't we all?" Julia says. The lamp wavers, then steadies again. The two women stand for a moment longer, not talking now, just breathing the same calm air, surrounded by the sounds of a house that's finished its day. When they finally move, it's slow, reluctant, as though any noise might wake the sleeping peace that's settled over everything. Julia glances toward the sleeping rooms. "Come on," she whispers. "Let's not waste what's left of the night." Marcia nods, following her. The last lamp flickers low behind them, painting their shadows long on the walls before finally dimming to a golden hush. Outside, Pompeii rests. Inside, the merchant's house has gone utterly still, the soft hum of chores fading into the kind of silence that only homes know. It's the sound of rest earned and shared, the sound of everything and everyone at peace. The house has grown quiet. Julia and Marcia have gone to bed, the lamps trimmed low, their glow soft as candlelight through honey. Even the dog is silent now, his paws twitching in dreams that probably involve chasing something smaller and slower. Only Marcus remains awake, seated at the small table near the hearth. In front of him lies his ledger, a thick, well-used book bound in leather, its pages crowded with neat rows of numbers and the occasional smudge of ink. He dips his pen into the inkwell, taps it once on the rim, and sighs. "Just a few notes, then bed," he says to himself. He had said those same words every night for 20 years, and every night they'd meant at least another half hour, maybe more. The faint scratch of the pen fills the quiet room. Outside, the wind has slowed to a whisper, brushing softly against the shutters. Marcus writes carefully, the lamplight catching on the edge of his cheek. He lists the day's sales: 1 amphora of olive oil to Gaius the innkeeper, 2 bolts of dyed linen, both already paid for, 3 jars of garum to be delivered tomorrow. He pauses, does a little calculation in his head, then writes another note in the margin: check scales before market. He leans back and rubs his temples. Numbers are simple, honest things. They don't gossip or complain. They don't talk over supper or demand new tunics. They just sit there quietly, waiting to be balanced. Marcus likes that about them. In a noisy world, the ledger never argues. Still, his eyes are growing tired. He blinks at the small script on the page, which is starting to blur slightly. He should probably stop, he knows that, but there's something comforting about this ritual, the small, steady act of writing down what the day has given. It's his way of tucking the world in for the night. He reaches for his cup, the last of his watered wine, now cool and thin. He takes a sip, grimaces slightly. "Next time less water," he mutters.
From the shadows near the hearth, Panza lets out a quiet groan as if agreeing. Marcus chuckles. You'd prefer milk, wouldn't you? The dog's tail gives a lazy thump. Smart beast. Knows quality when he hears it. He returns to the ledger. Now he's on the page where he tracks debts. Always a trickier list. Some names have neat lines through them, debts paid and settled. Others linger, stubborn, like guests who won't take a hint. He runs his finger down the column, thinking. Most of these people he's known for years. He's seen them laugh, haggle, boast, worry. He knows whose wives keep careful books and whose sons borrow too freely. It's a strange sort of intimacy, one made of coin and trust. At the bottom of the page, he pauses on a familiar name, Tiberius Flaccus. Ah, yes, the baker. Always one payment behind, but never dishonest. Marcus smiles faintly. He'll pay next week. He always does, just after claiming he won't. He writes a small note beside the name. Patient man, good bread. The ledger isn't supposed to include opinions, but Marcus adds them anyway. It makes the book feel less like work and more like a conversation. He flips to the back, where the pages are less full. Here he keeps his small calculations, the running totals that show the year's pattern, profit, loss, trade routes that rise and fall like tides. This year has been good enough. Not exceptional, but good.
He sold well, kept the shop in order, paid his dues. More importantly, he's kept his family comfortable. Fed, warm, safe. He runs a finger along the margin and nods to himself. That's worth more than any number. He sets the pen down for a moment and leans back in his chair. The wood creaks softly. The flame of the lamp dances in the reflection of his cup. He watches it, lost in thought. Sometimes he wonders what his father would think. The man who taught him the trade, who insisted on proper bookkeeping long before Marcus appreciated the beauty of balanced numbers. He remembers sitting beside him as a boy, watching him write by the same kind of lamplight, the same soft scratching of the pen. It feels like yesterday, and somehow, like another lifetime entirely. The dog shifts again, sighing. Marcus smiles. All right, I'm nearly done. He picks up the pen once more and writes a few last notes. Ship from Puteoli delayed. Ask about prices. Order new amphore. Remind Livia not to chase the cat through the storeroom again. He chuckles softly at that one. He doesn't plan to read the ledger aloud to her, but somehow, writing it there makes it official. A small record of the chaos that makes life interesting. He closes the book gently, runs a hand over the worn cover. It's warm from his touch, the edges darkened with years of use. He always means to get a new one, but this one has too much history in it. Stains from spilled ink, small dents from coins placed too hard, a few doodles in the margins that Livia made when she was younger. He couldn't replace that, even if he wanted to. It's a record not just of his trade, but of time itself. Days stacked on days, each one ordinary, each one quietly precious. He blows out a slow breath and leans back, stretching his arms. The chair groans again, matching his sigh. Another day done, he whispers. It's not pride he feels exactly, but something gentler, a quiet satisfaction. There's beauty in the small things completed, numbers written, lamps lit, bread eaten, children safe. He doesn't need anything more than that tonight. He closes the ledger, ties it with its thin leather cord, and places it neatly on the shelf. The sound it makes, that soft thump of a book finding rest, is oddly final, like the day sealing itself shut. He takes one last look around the room. The shadows are deeper now. Only one lamp remains burning, its flame tiny but stubborn. The air hums faintly with stillness. He stands, stretches again, and sets his cup aside. Before heading to bed, Marcus moves to the window. He opens the shutter just enough to look out. The street is empty now. The night has settled fully, heavy and calm. Somewhere,
A distant dog barks once, then stops. The stars above shimmer quietly, ancient and endless. He feels small in the best way, part of something vast and old, something that's seen 1,000 nights just like this. He closes the shutter gently and turns back to the quiet glow of the room. The lamp flickers once, as if nodding goodnight. Marcus smiles. "Sleep well, old flame," he says softly, and blows it out. Darkness folds around the room, warm and familiar. The house sighs in its sleep, and in the silence, the faintest sound remains, the gentle ticking of a heart at peace, keeping time with the resting city beyond. The house is still, completely still. The kind of stillness that comes only after everyone is truly surrendered to sleep. The lamps are out, the embers in the hearth have cooled to a dull red sigh. Even the air seems to move more slowly, drifting through the hallways like a tired servant who knows there's nothing left to do tonight. Outside, the city of Pompeii sleeps too. Not all of it, of course. There's always someone awake somewhere. A watchman at a gate, a cat prowling the rooftops, a night bird rustling the leaves of an olive tree. But the bustle, the laughter, the clatter of trade and chatter of markets, all of that has quieted now, replaced by the soft rhythm of 1,000 breathing souls. The moon is up, pale and patient, hanging above the rooftops like a watchful eye. Its light falls gently over the tiles and courtyards, spilling into open windows and across the mosaics of sleeping homes. It brushes the outlines of pottery, the curve of amphorae, the folds of curtains, turning everything faintly silver. It's a kind of magic that happens only at night, when even the simplest things look like memories. In the merchant's house, everyone dreams. Julia, in the big bed she shares with Marcus, sleeps on her side, one arm tucked beneath her cheek. Her hair, long since come loose, lies like a dark river across the pillow. In her dreams, she's younger again, standing by the harbor, the wind full of salt and laughter. Marcus is there too, though he looks a little different, his beard darker, his eyes less tired. He's arguing with a trader over the price of a bolt of cloth, and Julia is laughing because she already knows he'll win. Dreams have a kind way of softening people, of showing them as they were, or as we wish them to be. Marcus, beside her, sleeps more deeply. The day's thoughts have finally released him. Ledgers, coins, shipments, all dissolved into quiet. In his dream, he's walking through the forum at dawn. The stalls are empty, the stones cool under his sandals. He hears his father's voice, not speaking words exactly, but humming something faint and familiar. It's a song from long ago, one Marcus can't quite remember when he's awake. He follows the sound through the mist, smiling faintly, not hurrying, just walking. Even in dreams, he keeps his steady pace. In the small adjoining room, their daughters sleep curled together under a light wool blanket. Marcia has one arm draped over Livia, protectively. Livia mumbles in her sleep, something about the cat and the fig she wasn't supposed to touch. Her little feet kick once, then settle. Dreams for children are simpler things, a jumble of the day's adventures stitched into nonsense and sweetness. Marcia's dream, on the other hand, is full of small triumphs, reciting her letters perfectly, getting praised by her tutor, and helping her mother with the bread. She smiles slightly in her sleep, the faint glow of pride following her even here. Down in the courtyard, Panza the dog sleeps on his side, chin resting on his paws. Every once in a while, his ears twitch or his tail gives a sleepy wag. He's dreaming too, chasing pigeons across sunlit stones, barking proudly when he almost catches one. In his dream, no one scolds him for knocking over a basket. No one tells him to stay out of the kitchen. Everything smells like bread, and there's always someone laughing nearby. It's a good dream. He sighs and shifts, his paws running in place against the tiles. The air inside the house grows cooler as the night deepens. Through an open window,
The scent of the garden drifts in, faint, sweet, a mix of dank earth and herbs. A vine leaf trembles. Somewhere, a tiny drop of water falls from a jar to the stone floor with a soft plink. The sound is small, but in the silence, it seems to echo forever. Then the night folds around it again, unbothered. Out on the street, the moonlight spills over empty paving stones. The walls throw long shadows that stretch and blur across the uneven ground. A stray dog pads past, sniffs a doorway, moves on.
Farther away, a cart creaks faintly. Perhaps someone returning late from the countryside, careful not to wake the sleeping city. From one window, a lamp still burns. Perhaps another merchant, like Marcus, finishing his accounts, or a mother sitting beside a restless child. But even that small glow flickers out after a while, leaving the whole street in soft, silvery dark. The rooftops shimmer faintly with dew. Somewhere, a fountain keeps running, its water whispering against the marble basin. It's been running for years, through laughter, through storms, through the quiet passing of nights just like this one. Pompeii is full of such sounds that never quite stop. Even in sleep, the city hums to itself. Back inside, a faint breeze stirs one of the wall hangings. It moves just enough to catch the moonlight, and for a moment, the woven figures seem to dance, gods and heroes shifting softly in their threads. Then the wind passes, and they go still again, content to watch over the sleeping house. Time in these hours feels thick and slow. It doesn't march, it drifts. If you could stand in the courtyard now and listen, you might hear the faintest sounds of breathing from within, the softest rustle of a blanket, the light tap of a shutter as the wind brushes it. You might feel, for a heartbeat, that nothing has ever changed, that this night could be any night, this family, any family, the world eternal. A shooting star slips silently across the sky. No one sees it, but that's all right. Some beauty belongs to the night itself. The city sleeps on. Inside the merchant's home, the dreams settle deeper, wrapping everyone in warmth. Marcus turns once, murmuring something in his sleep, a half-formed word, maybe Julia's name. She doesn't stir, but her hand shifts slightly, finding his. They stay that way, two palms touching in the dark, while the night leans in around them, soft and infinite. Outside, the air begins to cool just a little more. The first hint of dawn, not light, just the idea of it, begins to gather far off, somewhere beyond the mountains. It won't reach the city for another hour or two. For now, Pompeii rests perfectly between yesterday and tomorrow, suspended in the hush of midnight. The wind changes direction, the vine leaves rustle again, the dog sighs once more. And in that house on the quiet street, nothing moves except the slow rhythm of dreams. There's a moment, just before dawn, when the night isn't quite gone, but the day hasn't properly begun either. The stars are still there, faint and blinking, but their shine has softened. The moon, tired from its long watch, begins to sink behind the western hills. And the air, that soft, cool air of early morning, feels freshly washed, like it's been rinsed clean of yesterday. In Pompeii, most of the city still sleeps, but a few lives have already begun to stir. There's always someone awake before the sun: bakers, guards, servants, and the odd restless soul who simply prefers the company of silence. From the far end of the street, a sound rises, a dull thump, the steady rhythm of someone kneading dough. Then the faint creak of a cartwheel. Then, somewhere closer, the soft hiss of water poured from a jug. The day is quietly beginning. Inside the merchant's house, the first to wake is Tullia, the household servant.
She moves softly through the dark, careful not to wake anyone. Years of habit have trained her steps to make no sound. She ties her shawl around her shoulders and lights a small oil lamp, shielding it with her hand so the flame doesn't flicker too brightly. The glow spreads in a small golden pool that seems to push back the night only a little, but just enough. Her first task is always the same: relight the kitchen fire. The coals from last night are nearly out, but still warm. She blows gently, coaxing them to life. The faint orange returns, deep and steady. She adds a handful of kindling, listens to it crackle softly, and smiles to herself. There's something comforting about that sound. The fire waking up, just like the house. Next comes the water. She takes a small bronze bucket and steps out into the courtyard. The sky above is pale gray now, the first color of morning. The air smells of wet stone and flowers, faint but fresh. She draws water from the cistern, careful not to splash too much, and glances upward. 1 or 2 stars still hang there, refusing to leave just yet. She murmurs stubborn things. Her voice sounds louder than expected in the quiet courtyard. She doesn't speak again. Back inside, she pours the water into a clay basin, ready for washing. She moves efficiently, her mind already ticking through the day ahead, sweeping, preparing bread, checking on the storeroom. There's always more to do than daylight allows, but she doesn't mind. There's a rhythm to these mornings she's come to love. They belong to her, these quiet, unclaimed hours before anyone else wakes. In the main room, a small beam of light finds its way through the shuttered window. It falls across the mosaic floor, brightening the little fish pattern that winds near the doorway. The lamp's glow and the dawn's light meet for a moment, one golden, one silver, before the stronger of the two, the morning, begins to win. Dust motes drift lazily in the air, catching that light like tiny sparks. Outside, the street begins to murmur. Someone calls to a donkey. A door creaks open. There's the faint scrape of sandals on stone. No shouting, no hurry, just the slow unfurling of a city remembering itself. If you listen closely, you might even hear laughter somewhere, faint and sleepy. Pompeii is yawning awake. Back inside, Tullia sets bread to warm near the fire. The smell of it, earthy and soft, begins to drift through the house. It's the kind of smell that wakes people gently, without alarms or shouts. And sure enough, a few moments later, small footsteps patter on the floor. It's Livia, hair tangled, eyes half open. She stands in the doorway, blinking at the light. "Is it morning already?" she mumbles, rubbing her eyes. "Almost," Tullia says, smiling. "Go wash your face, little one. The water's ready." Livia groans quietly. She never likes cold water, but obeys as she always does, dragging her feet with dramatic slowness. From somewhere deeper in the house, the faint sound of movement. Julia, stirring, stretching, realizing the morning has come. Then Marcus, with his usual morning cough, a low grumble that means he's awake but not ready to admit it yet. The quiet peace of night gives way, gently, to the low hum of life. In the children's room, Marcia is already sitting up, combing her hair with quick, neat strokes. She likes mornings. They make her feel older, more responsible. She checks on her sister, gives her a small splash of water to the face, which earns her a sleepy glare from Livia, and then starts folding the blanket. In another room, Julia wraps her shawl around her shoulders and opens the window shutters. The light spills in all at once, golden now instead of gray. Outside, the tops of the houses glow, their terracotta tiles catching the new sun. Somewhere, a bird sings. One long, clear note.
It's the same every morning, yet somehow it always feels new. Marcus joins her by the window, squinting against the brightness. "Too early," he mutters, his voice rough with sleep. Julia smiles. "You say that every day." "And I'll keep saying it," he replies, "until the gods start the sun an hour later." He yawns and rubs the back of his neck. "Smells like bread." "That's because there is bread," she says, amused. "Well then," he says, stretching, "perhaps the gods know what they're doing, after all." In the courtyard, the light is spilling everywhere now. The fountain sparkles, the ivy on the wall glows faintly green, the air, though still cool, carries a hint of warmth, that promise of another bright day. Tullia brings out a basin to scrub, the girls chase each other around the fig tree, and Marcus leans in the doorway, watching them with a sleepy smile. He hasn't even had wine yet, and still, somehow, life feels good. The city is properly awake now. A seller passes by, calling out softly about fresh fruit. The sound bounces off the walls, echoes down the street. A cart rattles past, its wheels clattering gently against the stones. And above it all, the birds begin to fill the air with their chatter, not the harsh cry of midday gulls, but the soft, hopeful song of dawn. For a few moments, the whole world seems balanced perfectly, half still in shadow, half bathed in light. It's the calmest part of the day, that tender pause before work begins, before the heat rises, before the noise returns. A time for stretching, for breathing, for being quietly alive. Marcus stands there, arms folded, and says softly, "It'll be a fine day." Julia looks at the sky. Every day feels fine at this hour. He nods. "Then maybe we should try to stay here, in this hour, a little longer." She laughs. If only time would listen to us. The first true rays of sunlight spill across the courtyard, touching the tiles, the fountain, the ivy on the wall, the sleeping dog, and the open ledger on Marcus's shelf. For a moment, the whole house seems to glow, golden, gentle, perfectly ordinary. And in that ordinariness lies something beautiful, the quiet truth that life, for now, simply goes on. The baker's cart passes again. The air smells faintly of warm loaves and wood smoke. Somewhere a bell rings in the distance, soft, patient, almost shy. The sun climbs a little higher, the shadows shorten, and Pompeii, bright, ancient, unknowingly mortal Pompeii, begins another day. By the time the sun clears the rooftops, the merchant's house is properly awake. Not bustling, exactly. Nothing here ever feels hurried, but alive, in that soft, purposeful way that mornings often are. The chill of night is gone now, replaced by a mild, golden warmth that fills every corner of the courtyard. Even the fountain seems to burble more cheerfully, catching the sunlight in tiny flashes. Julia is in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, hair tied back. She's slicing bread, spreading a little honey on it for the girls. The smell of warm crust mixes with the faint scent of olive oil from last night's meal. She hums softly under her breath, something tuneless, more rhythm than melody, the kind of sound that keeps her company as she works. The table is laid simply, clay cups, a small jug of milk, and a bowl of fresh figs. And the loaf still steaming slightly. Nothing extravagant, but everything is fresh, and there's a quiet satisfaction in that. Livia bursts in, barefoot and bright-eyed now, her earlier sleepiness completely forgotten. "Can we eat yet?" she asks, already reaching for a fig. "Wash your hands first," Julia says, without looking up. "But they're clean." Julia raises her eyebrow. "Then one more wash won't hurt." Livia sighs dramatically and trudges back toward the basin. Marcia follows, smiling. She knows her sister's little acts of rebellion are just part of the morning ritual. Marcus enters next, adjusting the folds of his tunic and stretching his arms. He smells faintly of smoke and sunlight. "Ah,
he says, spotting the bread. "I see the gods have blessed this table once again." Julia gives him a look that says the gods had nothing to do with it. "Sit, before your daughters eat everything." He laughs and obeys. The family eats together, unhurried. Marcus tears a piece of bread, dips it lightly in honey, and nods approvingly. Livia talks about a dream she had, something about riding a dolphin, though the details keep changing. Marcia corrects her several times, insisting dolphins don't let people ride them. Marcus, amused, simply says, perhaps this one owed her a favor. Julia shakes her head, smiling quietly as she pours more milk. It's an ordinary breakfast, but that's what makes it lovely. The shared quiet, the soft clink of cups, the light slanting across the table. After breakfast, the real rhythm of the day begins. Julia clears the dishes, Tolia sweeps the main hall, and Marcus heads toward the storeroom, his version of a morning temple. The storeroom is cool, smelling faintly of spices and amphoras. Rows of goods line the walls, jars of oil and garum, bolts of cloth wrapped neatly, baskets of dried fruit. He runs his hand over the linen bundles, checking the knots, the seals, the weight. Each item has its story, where it came from, who might buy it, what it cost, what it's worth. Marcus likes this part of the day. Quiet, methodical, predictable. The simple honesty of trade before the noise of bargaining begins. He makes a few notes on a wax tablet, his handwriting compact and steady. There's a shipment due from New Caria later in the week. Olive oil, possibly finer than the usual blend. If it arrives on time, he might make a little profit. If not, well, there's always next month. He's learned to take these things as they come. A merchant's life, like the sea his goods travel on, depends on tides no one can control. In the courtyard, Julia and Tolia are working side by side now. They lift the rugs, shake out the dust, scrub the tiled floor with brushes and buckets of water. The splashing sounds lively against the stone. Sunlight reflects off the wet surface, turning it almost mirror-like for a moment before it dries again. The smell of clean clay fills the air. Julia wipes her forehead and sighs, but she's smiling. There's a small joy in seeing things tidy, in watching the world slowly come back to order after a night of rest. The girls are outside, near the gate, helping, in their own way, or that's what they claim. Marcia is folding a length of cloth carefully, the way she's seen her mother do. Livia, meanwhile, has found a stick and is using it to draw shapes in the dust. A cat wanders by and sits squarely in the middle of her masterpiece. "Hey," she whispers, trying to shoo it away without success. The cat stares at her, unimpressed. "Fine," she says, crossing her arms. "You can help too." The cat yawns. It's a perfectly peaceful standoff. From the street beyond the walls, the sounds of the morning market begin to grow louder. Vendors calling out, carts creaking.
The faint ring of a hammer somewhere down the road. The whole city is waking properly now, stretching its arms, shaking off sleep. Pompeii is alive with that particular energy of a new day, full of plans, errands, small ambitions. Marcus appears at the doorway, ledger in hand. "I'll go to the market soon," he says. Julia nods, wringing out her cloth. "Remember to ask about the olive oil." "I always do," he says, pretending to sound offended. "You always forget," she counters. He laughs, conceding, "Then today I'll remember twice." He leans down, kisses her cheek, and leaves with his small list tucked neatly under his arm. The girls watch him go, Livia still clutching her stick. "Can we come too?" she asks. "Not today," Julia says. "You'll only chase pigeons again." "I won't," Marcia, not missing a beat, says. "Yes, you will." Julia smiles. "Another time. Today you help me here." It's not what they wanted to hear, but they accept it,
Children in every century learning the same quiet lesson of patience. By mid-morning, the house gleams. The floors are swept, the dishes stacked, the bedding laid out in the sun to air. The faint scent of lavender drifts through from the laundry pot, Julia's small luxury for clean linens. The courtyard looks brighter, more open now, its stones glinting where the light hits them. The fountain, catching drops of sun, sparkles as if in approval. Julia stands for a moment, hands on her hips, looking around. It's not perfect, no house ever is, but it feels right. Lived in, cared for. She takes a deep breath, the air still cool despite the growing warmth. From outside comes the faint rhythm of the marketplace, the city's heartbeat. And beneath it all, the steady, peaceful hum of life continuing, one simple task at a time. In the storeroom, Marcus locks the door, satisfied. He'll head to the market soon, but for now he pauses to listen, to the sounds of home, the water, the laughter, the broom's soft swish against the stone. He smiles, tucks his wax tablet under his arm, and steps out into the sunlight. The sun is higher now, spilling full over the city walls and painting the tiled roofs a warm terracotta gold. The streets of Pompeii, still damp from the night air, glisten faintly where the light hits the stones. Here and there small puddles catch reflections of the sky, bits of blue trapped in gray. Marcus steps carefully between them, his sandals clicking softly on the uneven road. His tunic is plain today, tied neatly at the waist, and he carries his small wax tablet in one hand, his other hand tucked behind his back like a man who knows exactly where he's going, even if the world around him is in no hurry. The street outside his home is already alive. A neighbor leans out of an upper window, shaking dust from a rug and calling down a cheerful "Salve!" Marcus waves back, smiling. "And good fortune to your rug." The woman laughs, tossing a bit of flour into the air as if to bless the day. It's the kind of exchange that happens every morning, light, easy, and utterly ordinary. He walks slowly, taking in the smells of the waking city. Warm bread, olive oil, a faint trace of smoke from the baker's kiln. Someone nearby is boiling lentils for stew. Someone else is burning incense, the air sweet with it. Pompeii always smells like this, a mix of food, fire, and earth, simple and human and alive. He passes a group of children playing with wooden hoops in the alley. One of them calls out, "Merchant Marcus, do you have sweets today?" Marcus grins, "Only if you've finished your lessons." The boy groans dramatically and waves him off. Marcus chuckles, remembering when his own daughters were small enough to believe merchants carried sweets instead of ledgers. At the next corner, a potter is setting up his stall. Rows of small clay cups line the table, still a little dusty from the kiln. Marcus stops for a moment to admire them. "Fine work," he says. "New glaze," the potter replies, rubbing his hands on his apron. "See how it catches the light." Marcus tilts one of the cups, nodding. "It does. Looks like the sea when it's calm." The potter grins. "That's what I was hoping for." Marcus sets the cup down carefully. "Keep a few ready. I'll stop by on my way back." He means it, though like many merchants, he knows that half of life's pleasure comes from the promise of small errands kept. As he moves on, the street widens, leading toward the Forum. More voices join the air now, vendors calling out, carts rattling, someone shouting cheerfully about fresh olives. The city hums with energy, but it's not frantic. There's a rhythm here, centuries old. Morning greetings, the shuffle of feet, the soft clatter of trade beginning again. Pompeii has done this every day for as long as anyone can remember, and as far as its people know, will continue forever. Marcus pauses near a fountain where a few townsfolk gather to fill their jugs. The water sparkles, spilling from a carved lion's mouth into the basin below. He dips his fingers in, cool and refreshing, then takes a slow sip from his cupped hand. One man beside him nods politely. Warm already. Marcus glances at the sky. It'll be a bright one. The man shrugs. Bright's good for business. Marcus smiles. Then may it stay bright all day. It's a simple exchange, but it feels like a blessing all the same. He continues toward the market square, passing the temple steps where a priest sweeps the threshold with deliberate care. The faint smell of incense follows Marcus as he goes. A few women in clean white stolas are carrying baskets toward the stalls, herbs, perhaps, or folded cloth. They greet him with nods. He returns them with the same small, respectful gesture. Everyone knows everyone here, at least by sight. It's one of Pompeii's quieter charms, the city large enough for business, but small enough for familiarity. The street narrows again, forcing Marcus to walk single file behind a donkey cart piled with amphoras. The animal moves at the pace of a philosopher, slow and certain. The driver looks back, half apologetic. She's in no hurry, he says. Neither am I, Marcus replies easily. They share a small smile before the driver clicks his tongue and the cart lumbers forward again. No one rushes. There's time enough for everything here. At the corner by the perfumer's shop, the air changes again, sweeter, thicker. Jars of oils and scented salves glint in the window, catching the light. A young woman inside fans the air lazily, the fragrance drifting out to mingle with the smell of baked bread from down the road. Marcus pauses for just a moment, breathing it in. Lavender, myrrh, maybe a hint of rose. He doesn't linger long, but it stays with him, that faint sweetness, like a pleasant thought tucked in his sleeve. Finally, the forum opens up ahead, the wide heart of Pompeii. Here, the light feels bigger, fuller. The colonnades throw long shadows across the paving stones, and the air buzzes softly with voices. Vendors are setting out their goods, figs and almonds, loaves stacked in neat pyramids, bright cloths folded over wooden stands. A group of men are standing by the statue of Augustus, deep in conversation about grain prices. Someone is laughing, a full, open laugh that carries across the square and makes others smile without knowing why. The city feels alive, but calm.
It's not a rush, more like a steady tide coming in. Marcus moves through it all at an easy pace, nodding to familiar faces. He greets the olive seller, a cheerful older man with a voice rough from shouting prices all his life. "Mornin', Marcus," the man calls. "Got the good ones today, smooth as silk." Marcus chuckles. "You said that yesterday, and I was right yesterday too." Marcus laughs, shaking his head. "Set some aside for me. I'll return." He makes a note on his tablet, though he doesn't need to. He won't forget. Near the edge of the forum, he stops at his usual spot, a small stall shaded by an awning of faded red cloth. It's his little post for trading. Not large, not fancy, but known. He sets down his ledger, smooths the cloth on the table, and begins to arrange the goods he brought. Small jars of oil, wrapped fabric, a handful of imported trinkets. Each one finds its place, and soon enough his stall looks just as it should. The same as yesterday, the same as tomorrow. There's comfort in that repetition, a sense of belonging. From where he stands, he can see the whole square, the light shifting on the stones, the movement of people, familiar, gentle, alive. The soft murmur of conversation rises and falls like waves. For a moment, Marcus simply watches. The morning has unfolded beautifully, quietly, and as he looks out at his city, at the routines, the laughter, the ordinary miracles of another day beginning, he feels that deep, peaceful certainty again. Life, for now, is good. The market in Pompeii never truly shouts, not the way big cities do. Here, the noise is more like a song, dozens of small voices overlapping, steady,
familiar. A call for figs here, a laugh over there, a pot clinking softly as someone tests its weight. It all weaves together into something gentle, something human. The sound of life happening, one ordinary moment at a time. Marcus stands at his stall beneath the faded red awning. He's laid out his goods neatly, jars of olive oil catching the sunlight, folded fabrics, a few bronze pins, and a small bowl of dried fruit that's mostly there to tempt conversation. His ledger lies open beside him, though he writes in it rarely. Most of what he needs to remember lives in his head. He's been doing this long enough to know that the rhythm of trade has its own kind of memory. A friend passes by, Publius, a fellow merchant who deals in pottery and never misses a chance to chat. He stops now, wiping his hands on his tunic. "Marcus," he grins, "you've stolen my spot again." Marcus smiles, without looking up. "Your spot. I don't see your name carved here." Publius gestures dramatically at the ground. "It's carved in spirit." Marcus chuckles. "Then your spirit can share the shade." They both laugh again. An easy, well-worn kind of laughter between men who've had this same conversation 100 times before. Around them, the market continues to bloom. A woman selling herbs fans the air with a branch of mint. Its cool scent drifts across the stalls, mixing with the tang of olives and the faint sweetness of baked figs. Nearby, a young boy runs errands for his mother, clutching a list that's already smudged with oil. He stops now and then to stare at shiny things he can't afford, polished glass beads, painted cups, tiny clay figurines. The vendors know the look. They smile, wave him along. No rush. The morning is long. An old man sits by a crate of apples, peeling one slowly with a small knife. He's not calling out prices anymore. He doesn't need to. People come to him out of habit, not persuasion. He knows every buyer by name, and every buyer knows his apples will always taste faintly of sunlight and patience. Marcus sells a few small things, a cloth here, a jar there, but there's no hurry in it. The market is as much about talking as it is about trading. He listens to stories of ship arrivals, of a neighbor's new mosaic, or a cousin's stubborn mule. One woman insists her sister saw a shooting star last night and took it as a sign of good fortune. Marcus nods solemnly. "Let's hope it lands on her doorstep then." The woman laughs. "If it does, I'll sell tickets." Even in the marketplace, humor comes softly, like wind through leaves. From somewhere near the fountain, a musician begins to play. A small lyre, simple but bright. The melody drifts across the square, not loud, just enough to hum beneath the chatter. Someone hums along, another whistles. A child claps out of rhythm. It's not a performance, really, more like the city breathing in tune with itself. Even the pigeons seem to settle into the sound. Publius leaves eventually, calling over his shoulder, "Save me a cloth. I'll ask my wife if she needs one more." Marcus smiles, knowing full well that she will. He turns back to rearrange his table, dusts off a jar, and adjusts the awning where the light is shifting. The breeze carries the smell of fresh bread again, stronger now. Someone nearby must be baking flat loaves for the lunch crowd. His stomach growls softly, but he ignores it. There's work to do, but there's no rush. A young couple stops by, newly married by the look of them. They linger over a roll of cloth dyed pale blue. The man says, "It's the color of the sky after rain." The woman nods, smiling, though she's clearly thinking about how much it costs. Marcus watches them quietly, then says, "For a new home, I can make the price kinder." The man is surprised. "You do that?" "Pompeii looks after its own," Marcus says simply. They exchange a glance, whisper briefly, and then the woman says, "We'll take it." He wraps it carefully, tying the cord with practiced hands, and as they leave, she thanks him softly, and he nods. Pleased not just for the sale, but for the way kindness always seems to return eventually. The market grows warmer as the sun climbs higher. The light deepens, golden and a little dusty. The stones underfoot begin to radiate heat, and people move slower now. Not tired exactly, just eased into the rhythm of the day. The chatter softens into murmurs. Some merchants sit on low stools, fanning themselves with scraps of parchment. Others nibble bits of fruit between customers. No one seems in a rush to end the morning. A few pigeons wander near Marcus's stall, pecking at crumbs. He flicks a finger toward them lazily. "Go on, you freeloaders." They look at him with the usual pigeon indifference, take one step back, then return to the same spot. He sighs, smiling. "Fine, then, stay. But I'm charging rent." A woman walking past laughs softly. "They'll pay in feathers." "That's what I'm afraid of." By midday, the rhythm begins to shift. Shadows shorten. Some stalls close briefly for rest, merchants heading home for a meal or a nap. The crowd thins a little, leaving space for the sound of sandals on stone and the quiet flutter of awnings. The musician by the fountain sets his lyre aside, stretches, and dips his feet into the cool water. No one minds.
It's too warm now for anyone to mind anything. Marcus closes his ledger with a soft snap and leans back in his chair. He's made enough for the morning, not a fortune, but enough to feel the day has meaning. He'll stay a little longer, maybe buy some olives before heading home. From where he sits, the whole market seems to shimmer gently in the light. People moving slowly, peacefully, laughter still floating here and there, light as the dust in the air. He thinks briefly of Julia and the girls, of the house at the edge of the street, its courtyard dappled with shade by now. He pictures Livia trying to teach the cat new tricks, and Julia pretending not to watch while secretly amused. He smiles to himself, that quiet smile of a man content with both his work and his home. The city hums softly around him, calm, sunlit, steady. Pompeii at peace with its morning. And Marcus, sitting there beneath his little awning, feels utterly at home. By the time the sun stands high above Pompeii, the market begins to loosen its hold on the day. The songs fade first. The calls of vendors, once lively and bright, grow quieter, more like murmurs between friends. The air feels thicker now, carrying the scent of dust and olives and sun-warmed stone. Even the pigeons have stopped arguing and settled under awnings, wings half open, pretending to nap. Marcus packs his goods slowly. No rush. There never is around midday. He ties the cloth over each jar, folds the leftover fabric neatly, and places everything in a small wicker basket. The marketplace is still half alive. A few buyers lingering, a child tugging on his mother's sleeve, one man haggling over the price of wine, even as the seller yawns. It's all very gentle now, softened by heat and routine. Publius reappears, a loaf of bread under his arm, and the air of a man already thinking about his nap. "Leaving already?" he says, though his tone suggests he's hoping Marcus says yes. Marcus nods. "The house will be cooler than this." Publius wipes his brow dramatically. "Everything is cooler than this." He eyes the bread in his hand. "If I eat all of this, I may not move again until sunset." Marcus grins. "Then your wife will have a quiet afternoon." Publius laughs and waves him off. "Go before I melt into the street." They part with a lazy salute. No ceremony, just the comfort of habit. Marcus steps out from under the awning and into the sun. It's a bright, unrelenting kind of light, the sort that makes the stones shimmer and the air hum faintly. The streets are quieter now, shutters half closed, doors ajar to catch whatever breeze dares to pass. A dog lies in the shadow of a doorway, twitching in its sleep. Somewhere, faintly, someone is singing. A low, drifting tune, maybe from a workshop or a courtyard beyond the wall. He walks at an easy pace,
basket balanced against his hip. Each turn feels familiar. The chipped corner by the potter's stall, the stretch of road that always smells faintly of herbs, the fountain where water trickles lazily, glinting like molten glass. The same path he's walked countless times, yet he never minds it. There's something deeply comforting in walking through a city that knows your steps, where the stones remember you as much as you remember them. A young boy runs past, barefoot and laughing, chased by a friend. Their voices echo off the walls, bright and brief, before fading into another street. Marcus smiles faintly. Even in this heat, children still find energy somewhere, a mystery adults long ago stopped questioning. He turns down a narrow lane lined with small gardens. The air here smells sweeter, rosemary, basil, and the faint perfume of flowering vines that lean lazily over walls. A woman waters her plants with a clay jug, the water darkening the earth as it trickles. "Good day, Marcus," she says, shading her eyes. "And to you, Flavia. Your garden's winning the battle against the sun, I see." She smiles barely, "But we Romans are stubborn." Marcus laughs softly. "That's why our plants grow so well." He waves as he walks on, her laughter trailing behind him like a small, happy breeze. The sounds of the forum are distant now, muffled by the walls and heat. Only the fountain's murmur keep him company for a while. When he finally turns the corner to his own street, the sight of home feels like exhaling after a long breath. The gate stands half open, the familiar creak of its hinge greeting him like an old friend. Inside, the courtyard glows with filtered light. The fountain's song is softer here, mixed with the rustle of leaves and the faint clink of pottery from the kitchen. Julia looks up as he enters. "Back early? Or late?" Marcus says, setting down the basket. "Depends on your opinion of the sun." She smiles knowingly. "Then definitely late. It's been glaring at the roof since mid-morning." He leans down to kiss her cheek, the simple act filled with quiet warmth. Livia and Marcia appear almost instantly, their faces bright despite the heat. "Did you bring anything?" Livia asks, eyes wide. Marcus reaches into the basket and pulls out a small pouch. Inside are a few dried dates, sticky and sweet. "Only for those who helped your mother." Livia straightens her back immediately. "I helped the most." Marcia rolls her eyes. "You dropped the broom twice." "Dropping isn't the same as not helping," Livia says matter-of-factly. Marcus raises his hand. "Peace, you two. The dates won't survive a war." Julia sighs, though she's smiling. "Every meal is a negotiation in this house." Lunch is simple, as always. Fresh bread, a dish of olives, a bowl of lentils seasoned with herbs, and a little cheese. Julia pours watered wine into small cups, the liquid catching the light like soft amber. The family eats together at the low table in the shade. The air still heavy, but cooler than outside. A breeze stirs the hanging cloths, carrying the scent of food and stone. It's quiet for a while, the kind of silence that isn't empty, but comfortable. Only the occasional sound of chewing or the small clink of a cup being set down. Marcus tells them small bits of market gossip. The new glaze the potter's proud of, the musician who played by the fountain, Publius's threat to become part of the street if the heat didn't relent. The girls giggle. Julia shakes her head. "If Publius melts, tell his wife I'll send a broom." Marcus cluckles. "I'll tell her to sweep carefully. He's worth at least a few coins in bronze." The laughter is soft but full, floating lazily in the warm air. After the meal, they leave the dishes where they are. It's too hot to do otherwise just yet. Julia stretches her arms, glancing toward the inner rooms. "The floor will stay cool till afternoon. Let's rest before the sun comes hunting us again." Marcus nods, wise as ever. He helps move a small cushion for her, then settles on a bench by the wall, half in shade. The girls lie near the fountain, whispering softly at first, then fading into quiet. The courtyard falls still. Only the fountain speaks now,
in small, endless syllables of water. A fly hums somewhere, then drifts away. Outside, the city is silent. Even the birds retreat to the shade. The stones themselves seem to sleep. It's that kind of noon. Heavy, but peaceful, timeless in its simplicity. Marcus lets his eyes close. He thinks briefly of tomorrow's errands, of the olive oil shipment, of nothing at all. The warmth wraps around him like a thick, gentle blanket. Somewhere nearby, Julia shifts, sighs, and drifts into sleep. Livia's quiet breathing mixes with the sound of the fountain. Marcia's fingers twitch once, chasing some small dream. And Pompeii, in its bright, unhurried peace, rests with them, a city caught in a moment that feels like forever.